It's no bullshit. It's all truth.
But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
It's time to get straight to the point. Here's Adam Sager.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Straight to the Point podcast. I am your host, Adam Sager. You can follow me on Twitter at Adam G. Sager, on Instagram at Adam G. Sager. You can find this show anywhere that you can find your podcast. iHeart, Apple iTunes. Go to the podcast. Just search Straight to the Point. It will come up with Adam Sager. Spotify, anywhere. You can go to YouTube. I have a YouTube channel where these are uploaded every single time they come out. So you can find them. Whatever you use for podcast, just search Straight to the Point with Adam Sager, and it should come up. I believe this is episode 7 or 8. I'm not sure. I haven't been able to do one recently, but I'm back. And the Bears. We're talking Bears today. You know I stick pretty much Chicago. We're talking Bears. Bears are one win over the Green Bay Packers next Sunday at 3:25. If they win that game, they're in the playoffs after another beatdown of a bad team. That's what they did yesterday. They beat down the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Jags, congrats to them. They have locked up the number 1 pick as the Jets beat the Browns, winning their second in a row. The Jaguars will now get the opportunity to draft Trevor Lawrence number 1 in the NFL draft. Congrats to them. That's a big win for that franchise right at the time when they need it most. But back to the Bears. Again, they're now 8-7. They need to win over the Packers. It's not the only way they get in the playoffs. They can get in the playoffs if they lose. But they need the Cardinals to lose as well. And now the Cardinals are going to face the LA Rams, who could be without their starting quarterback, Jared Goff, after he broke and dislocated his thumb yesterday. There are reports saying that he can hold off on surgery, and he might be able to play through this. Can he play through it 7 days later? I'm not sure. That's a pretty big jump, in my opinion. I don't think we will see him play, but the Bears need them to lose. Now, the Bears could end up with a Bears win and Cardinals win. The Bears would end up the 6th seed, not the 7th seed. So the Bears can get into the playoffs. But what does this mean? What does this mean when we talk about this? And you know, I've done podcasts here where just 4 weeks ago, we were talking about the fact, the Bears, if they can lose out, if they can go 1-3 down the stretch, they could possibly have a top 7 or top 10, maybe in top 8 pick. And that's exactly where it was looking, probably about the 10th pick or so, if they went 1-3 down the final quarter of the season. Well, here they are. They're 3-0. Trubisky in the offense is playing really well. The defense has some moments where it's not the Bears defense we all know and love. But then they step up and they make some plays. And Roquan Smith played out of his mind yesterday. 2 interceptions, making big tackles. Danny Trevathan played well. So there are moments. And let's remember, they're also playing without Jalen Johnson the last few weeks, who's been out. He should be back this week, hopefully. But what does this mean in the big picture of the Chicago Bears? This is possibly the last game Mitch Trubisky could play in a Bears uniform. If they go out and win, what are the chances he gets extended? What are the chances he is brought back on a 1-year deal? I'm going to tell you what I think they should do, but these are all the questions everybody's going to ask. If they make the playoffs, is Ryan Pace safe? Is Matt Nagy safe? So many question marks surround this organization. If they lose to the Packers by a field goal, what does the team do? What does the organization do? What does George McCaskey do? Do they clean house from Pace, Nagy, and Trubisky all out? If they make the playoffs, the best they're picking is 20th. So you're out of the range of your top 4. And the Bears, here's the thing, they can't afford to trade up to where it's going to cost to get even Trey Lance, quarterback 4. So now you're thinking, okay, if Nagy stays, if Bill Lazor stays. Mitch knows the system. He played well under the time when Bill Lazor was calling plays. Remember, Bill Lazor took over and Nick Foles was still the quarterback, and he was garbage. He's bad because he can't move. Bill Lazor put together a game plan for Mitch Trubisky once he came back starting, and Mitch has looked like a different quarterback. They're moving the pocket. They're rolling him out a bunch. They're letting him use his legs. They're making plays. And Mitch, here's another thing. Mitch is going to miss throws, everybody. Tom Brady misses throws. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. Peyton Manning missed throws. Joe Montana missed throws. It's going to happen. I think we're in this world now that these guys have to be perfect or they suck. Like that's what they have to be perfect. If they're not perfect, then they just suck. I feel like that's where we're at now in the Twitter world and social media world, where everybody can get their thoughts out immediately. That's not the case. I'm not saying Mitch is a good quarterback. Trust me. I'm not saying that at all. But there are going to be times when he misses a throw that he should have made. There are going to be times when he makes a throw that you say, wow, that was a great throw. That's how it is for every quarterback. Now, the consistency is the big thing. And Mitch hasn't been consistent enough. But the last few weeks, yeah, he's been consistent enough. He's been good enough. And that's why they're winning games. That's why, and to be honest, the game that they won, or the game they lost, against the Lions, the offense put up, 30 points or so? It's not like they didn't do their job. The defense didn't play well in that game. So, yeah, since he's come back, he was 26 of 34 for 267 yards, a touchdown, and no picks in that game. The only bad game he's had was the Green Bay game. Against the Packers. He was still had 3 touchdowns, but had 2 turnovers and a blowout loss. Now they got to play the Packers again. Can they learn from that? But Mitch, in his last 5 games since coming back starting in Week 12, they're 3-2. Remember, they lost to Detroit. He did have the fumble at the end of the game. For some reason, they're throwing the ball. That's on Mitch, and it's on Lazor, and it's on Nagy. You're the head coach. You hearing the play call go in. You know the play calls. You hear a pass. You don't want to pass. You say, hey, no, run the ball. Run the ball. That's your job as the game manager, as the head coach. But in his last 5 games, Mitch is completing 68% of his passes. He has over 1,240 yards, 10 touchdowns, 4 picks, 99.3 quarterback rating. But here's the thing. We've seen this Mitch before. We've seen Mitch go on stretches where he's been really good. And then things come back. And remember, they've played Green Bay, who doesn't have a great defense. They've played Detroit, who has an awful defense. They played Houston, who has the worst defense in football. They played the Minnesota Vikings, who does not have a good defense. And they played the Jacksonville Jaguars, who don't have a good defense. So they played, I'd say, 4 terrible defenses and 1 average defense in Green Bay. So, we got to look at this. Again, back to the big picture. What does this mean if they make the playoffs? Sadly, what I think it means is everyone's safe, and they're going to try and sign Mitch to a 1-year deal. And that could make sense based off where you're picking. Maybe if you're the Bears and you're Ryan Pace, and okay, I'm safe in terms of this year. Let's draft Christian Darrisaw at 20, the offensive tackle for Virginia Tech, or Rashawn Slater, or, Samuel Cosme from Texas. One of those guys. Maybe a Jalen Mayfield from Michigan. Maybe you double up at tackle the first 2 picks, first 2 rounds. I would go, and here's the big thing. You have to find a way to keep Allen Robinson. Especially if Mitch is going to be your quarterback for another year. Not only because Allen Robinson is a top 10 wide receiver in this league. If you're keeping Mitch, we see the connection that those two do have. Now, here's the thing. You probably still should draft a wide receiver. I would go offensive tackle wide receiver unless a Jalen Waddle fell to you at 20. The other consideration I'd have is a Kyle Pitts. Is he available at 20? I'd take him. Cole Kmet's a nice player. He's going to be a solid player, I think, in this league. He can be a big red zone target. He can do a couple different things. If you paired him up with Kyle Pitts be the move tight end, the guy that can stretch out and line up out wide, and Cole Kmet's the guy that's standing either right at the end of the line of scrimmage or he's on the line of scrimmage with the offensive line, then I'm good with that. Weapons. This offense needs more weapons. David Montgomery is showing us that he's a weapon. We know Allen Robinson's a true number one weapon. Darnell Mooney is proving to be a great pick for Ryan Pace, as he's a legitimate number 2 wide receiver. But if you can go out and in the first round get a Jalen Waddle that makes Darnell Mooney even better, that's a big deal. That's something you can, put your hat on. That's 3 good pieces. Kyle Pitts adds another good piece to that if you get him instead of Waddle. And then you got to go offensive tackle in the first 2 rounds. You got to go one of them. I would say, if you're waiting until round 2, maybe a Jalen Mayfield's there at round 2. The kid from North Dakota State should be there in round 2. Maybe the Notre Dame tackle, Eichenberg, is still there at round 2. A bunch of different ways this team can go. But again, I think it's a big difference if they lose to Green Bay or not. To me, I don't think it matters. I think if they lose by a point or they lose by 20 like they did 5 weeks ago, then, in my opinion, I think Ryan Pace is out. And yeah, there's guys that I want. One being former Houston Texans GM Rick Smith. I think a guy that makes sense would be Kansas City Chiefs Director of Player Personnel, Mike Borgonzi. Him and Matt Nagy were in Kansas City for 5 years together. If Nagy stays, Borgonzi is a guy that's going to have coming in an idea of what Matt Nagy is. He's going to be coming in saying, yes, I think Matt Nagy can work, and I think the fact that Matt Nagy gave up the play calling shows a lot. He gave up the play calling, and this team was in a free fall. And he gave it up to Bill Lazor, and things have been pretty good offensively since. I mean, I don't know what else. They're putting up 26. 26. Nope, excuse me. Hold on. 25, 30, 36, 33, 41 points in those 5 games since Mitch has come back and Bill's kind of taken the reins and things have taken off. So Bill Lazor deserves the shot to come back, be the play caller next year, and I think Matt Nagy will be the head coach. Matt Nagy is a good players guy. He's a good culture guy. Keep everything. I mean, most teams, you lose 6 in a row, you're done. You don't got a shot at the playoffs. I know they started 5-1, but you're done at that point. Your team's left you, not this team. They did not. No matter what anybody wants to say, they did not. This defense could have said, well, damn, here comes Trubisky. Now what? We've already been through this. They didn't. And now the defense has got to step it up. It's a massive game next week at Soldier Field against the Green Bay Packers. Gets you into the playoffs. And I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. I know there's people out there saying, what does it do? Why does it help the Bears if they make the playoffs and whatnot? When you're a game out of the playoffs and you're a fan of a team, you want that team in the playoffs. Because I will say for Ryan Pace, he's made some dumb decisions. Every GM does. He missed on Trubisky. Should have drafted Mahomes or Watson, yes, 100%. I was wrong. I wanted Trubisky. But I also think where the Bears screwed up was not having that head coach come in with Trubisky, a Matt Nagy, or somebody else that time. John Fox should have been out. John Fox should have never been the head coach when Mitch was coming into the league. Never should have been the head coach. That's where I think things went completely wrong. And I don't know if that's on the McCaskies, who wanted to keep John Fox, Ted Phillips, that group, who said, no, Ryan Pace, you cannot get rid of our guy. Or that was Ryan Pace's decision to keep John Fox. But that's where, I've said that for a long time. If I'm bringing in a rookie quarterback, I want a new regime coming in with him. Because, especially if I'm drafting one, if I'm drafting one early, I'm drafting one in the top 10 picks, top 5 picks, and there's a guy that is close to being fired, you fire that guy and you move forward. Jacksonville, I don't know how Doug Marrone stays. Doug Marrone should be out. A new guy comes in. They're interviewing GM candidates now. He should be out. Doug Marrone and his staff bring in somebody completely new, somebody. If I'm them, I am calling Joe Brady and saying, come take Trevor Lawrence and show us what you can do with him. The Jets, Adam Gase, unless something crazy happens, will be out. They should be drafting a quarterback. Now, unless they can trade down and pick up a massive haul from somebody, then I would consider it. Washington is different because Ron Rivera just came in. He's assessing the situation. They had a young quarterback in Dwayne Haskins. That has not worked out. He will not be there. They should be drafting a quarterback wherever they end up. If they don't make the playoffs, that's the difference. They miss the playoffs, they could be picking 7th. They win, they're in. It's so crazy for the NFC East, but if you're the Bears, I don't see, maybe you bring in somebody on a 1-year deal outside of Mitch, because Nick Foles is not the answer. That's a big Ryan Pace screw up in my eyes. You traded a 4th round pick for Nick Foles, a 4th round where you've been good. You're good in the middle rounds drafting, and you traded for Nick Foles, who absolutely sucks and does not fit this new NFL. Unless your name is Tom Brady or Drew Brees, statue quarterbacks do not work in this league. You have to have a guy that can move a little bit. Patrick Mahomes isn't just speed burner, but he can move. Guys can move is what makes the difference. So we'll keep getting into this as we go, but the big question that will be answered next Monday, 1 week from today, is, are Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy still with the Bears? They win, I say they are. They lose, I'm going to say Pace is out, and we see whoever comes in as the new GM, new head of the organization, head of the football operations, the guy making the decisions. We'll see if he gets to make the decision on Matt Nagy. And then there's Mitch Trubisky and the rest of this roster. 2 moves. I've said it every time I've talked about the Bears. 2 moves of Ryan Pace this past offseason have crippled the Bears. Nick Foles traded a 4th round pick for him, then turned around and gave him $21 million guaranteed. While it's only $6 million for this coming year, because he should not be the starter. I'm pretty sure he did not meet any milestones to get more money. Still, the fact, the 4th rounder is valuable. And then the Robert Quinn deal. Reportedly, he's been playing with some sort of injury. Fine. But you know what? You spend that much money on a guy, you expect him to contribute. He has not contributed at all this year. Been a disaster of a signing. And that has crippled the Bears' ability to make any moves. Hell, it could cost them Allen Robinson. Now, yeah, you could always make moves and fit guys into the cap. But they got big decisions. They got a big decision on Kyle Fuller. What are they going to do with Kyle Fuller? Extend him? He's getting older. Do you want a guy that you're going to extend into his 30s as a corner? Now, he's still been really damn good. What about Akeem Hicks? Do you extend him? Do you try and trade him? Maybe recoup that 4th-round pick that you gave up for Nick Foles? Because he's still a player. He's still a very good defensive lineman. He's a top 20 defensive lineman in this league. Can you get a 4th for him? With only 1 year left on his deal? I'm not sure. But those are the decisions they have to make. And if you are re-signing Mitch, you're going to go to him and say, listen, man, do you want a chance to build your value? A chance to even stay here long term? 1 year, this amount of money, and let's roll. You can't franchise him. You're not paying him $30+ million. You're not transition tagging them, paying them $26, $27 million. If they do, they're stupid. You tell them, go find out your market, come back, let's see what happens. If someone wants to give him a deal and pay him money, fine. See ya. And then the Bears can go from there. A lot of decisions to be made, and the first big ones are going to come after Sunday's game. They make the playoffs. I think Pace and Nagy are safe. They miss the playoffs. I still think Nagy could be safe. Pace should be out. Simple as that. I mean, Nagy could be gone too. And you know what? And I'm not going to cry if he's gone. I think he has good head coach ability when he when he delegates responsibility out to Bill Lazor, and I think Chuck Pagano should be gone. I think Chuck Pagano should be gone. I like Chuck, seems like a nice guy, but I think they can do better. So, I think there should be a new defensive coordinator in Chicago next year. I know everybody was hoping Fangio was going to get fired and then come back, which, yeah, would be outstanding. But he's reportedly staying in Denver at least one more year. We'll see what happens there. I will do another podcast next week, and we'll say, hey, the Bears are getting ready to play the Saints, or the Bears are getting ready to play the Seahawks, or whoever it may be in the first round of the playoffs. Or we're going to be questioning, is this it for Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy? Those are the big question marks. It's a big week for the Bears. It's a big week for Mitch Trubisky. If he can go in and beat the Packers in Week 17 with the playoffs on the line and look good doing it, that's big for him in his future. There will be plenty of Bears fans calling for an extension of Mitch Trubisky. I will not be one of them, but I will be more open to the idea of a one-year deal, especially with where they're going to be picking in the first round. And then you say, you know what, let's see what happens, and we'll readdress the situation next year. But there are other avenues they could try. We'll see. All right, thanks for listening. That's it for Straight to the Point podcast. Again, you can get this podcast anywhere you have podcast. You get your podcast: Apple, Spreaker, iHeart, Spotify. I know I'm missing others. You can go to my YouTube channel. It's Straight to the Point with Adam Sager. Search it. It will be there. You'll see all the episodes there, including 2 early ones that I did that are not on this podcast page. This has been Straight to the Point with Adam Sager. Follow me on Twitter at Adam G. Sager. We will talk to you soon. I will also do any podcast if any breaking news in baseball. We got to do a Bulls podcast because woof, that team is terrible. And I want to talk about, a lot of people are saying, Bulls, go get James Harden. I don't know about that. I will do a podcast this week on the Bulls and their 0-3 start, and should they be trading off pieces to acquire more assets when in terms of maybe draft picks. Maybe tank this out and go for a Cade Cunningham, who I love watching at Oklahoma State. Love watching that kid. A 6'8" point guard who moves like he does, has that pull-up jumper. Woo! Woo! I really like what I see from that kid. So, I will get in a Bulls podcast this week, and then if anything breaks in baseball, Blake Snell was traded last night to the San Diego Padres. They got a nice little haul for him, did the Tampa Bay Rays. Maybe I'll do one on baseball, just kind of talk about where things are at, where the Sox stand, even though it's the same place as the last podcast I did. We'll talk about a Blake Snell deal, and what's the difference? Like, is it good for baseball with what the Rays do? It's a question I'll answer here in a future podcast. All right, guys, I will talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.